Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May the divine lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. Oh, peace, peace, peace.
This devotional song is a prayer to Lord Buddha. It is written by Swami Kripamayananda. The meaning of the song goes like this. Who is the yogi sitting under the tree with half-closed eyes, absorbed in meditation? Your thin body beaming with peace and brightness, you look like a prince. Your forehead adorned with holy mark. Whose palace did you abandon in darkness? By becoming a yogi in this young age? Have you taken an oath to acquire knowledge or leave this body? Watching your intense sacrifice, even stone-hearted melts. Did you come to this earth to salvage the suffering beings and spread the message of love by sacrificing worldly pleasures? ধনুস্তে মৃত লোচন যোগী কে তুমি বসে তরু তলে ধনুস্তে মৃত লোচন যোগী কে তুমি বসে তরু তলে তপের তাপেতে শীর্ণ শরীর শ্রীমুখেতে তবু জ্যোতি খেলে তপের তাপেতে শীর্ণ শরীর শ্রীমুখেতে তবু জ্যোতি খেলে ধ্যানস্থে মেত লোচন যোগী কে তুমি বসে তরু তলে হেরি রাজতে কাভালে তোমার মনে হয় বুঝি রাজার কুমার হেরি রাজতে কাভালে তোমার মনে হয় বুঝি রাজার কুমার প্রাসাদ কাহার করি অন্ধকার যৌবনে যোগী সাজিলে প্রাসাদ কাহার করি অন্ধকার যৌবনে যোগী সাজিলে ধ্যানস্থে মৃত লোচন যোগী কে তুমি বসে তরু তলে তুমি কি হে আজি করিয়াছ পণ জ্ঞান লাভ কিংবা শরীর পতন তুমি কি হে আজি করিয়াছ পণ জ্ঞান লাভ কিংবা শরীর পতন ধ্যানস্থে মৃত লোচন যোগী কে তুমি বসে তরু তলে নেহারিয়া তব ত্যাগ তুলন পাষাণ হৃদয় ধ্যান স্তিমিত লোচন যোগী, কে তুমি বসে তরু তলে, ত্রিতাপ তাপিত জীবের উদ্ধার করিতে তুমি কি আসিলে আবার, ত্রিতাপ তাপিত জীবের উদ্ধার করিতে তুমি কি আসিলে আবার, প্রেম মৈত্রী করিতে প্রচার, সব সুখ আস ত্যাগিলে, প্রেম মৈত্রী করিতে প্রচার, সব সুখ আস ত্যাগিলে, ধ্যান স্তিমিত লোচন যোগী, কে তুমি বসে তরু তলে, তপের তাপেতে শীর্ণ শরীর, শ্রীমুখেতে বুঝি জ্যোতি খেলে, তপের তাপেতে শীর্ণ শরীর, শ্রীমুখেতে তবু জ্যোতি খেলে, ধ্যান স্তিমিত লোচন যোগী, কে তুমি বসে তরু তলে।
I'm reading from the complete works of Swami Vivekananda, lecture given on September 26th, 1893, Buddhism, the Fulfillment of Hinduism. The relation between Hinduism, by Hinduism I mean the religion of the Vedas, and what is called Buddhism at the present day is nearly the same as between Judaism and Christianity. Jesus Christ was a Jew and Shakyamuni was a Hindu. The Jews rejected Jesus Christ, nay, crucified him, and the Hindus have accepted Shakyamuni as God and worship him. But the real difference that we Hindus want to show between modern Buddhism and what we should understand as the teachings of Lord Buddha lies principally in this. Shakyamuni came to preach nothing new. He also, like Jesus, came to fulfill and not to destroy. Only in the case of Jesus, it was the old people, the Jews, who did not understand him. While in the case of Buddha, it was his own followers who did not realize the import of his teachings. As the Jew did not understand the fulfillment of the Old Testament, so the Buddhists did not understand the fulfillment of the truths of the Hindu religion. Again, I repeat, Shakyamuni came not to destroy, but he was the fulfillment, the logical conclusion, the logical development of the religion of the Hindus. The religion of the Hindus is divided into two parts, the ceremonial and the spiritual. The spiritual portion is specially studied by the monks in that there is no caste. A man from the highest caste and a man from the lowest may become a monk in India, and the two castes become equal. In religion, there is no caste. Caste is simply a social institution. Shakyamuni himself was a monk, and it was his glory that he had the large-heartedness to bring out the truths from the hidden Vedas, and through them broadcast all over the world. He was the first being in the world who brought missionarizing into practice. Nay, he was the first to conceive the idea of proselytizing. Here is the reading.
Now, a short time of meditation. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Good morning and welcome to the Sunday service of the Vedanta Society of Toronto. Today, our topic is the compassionate Buddha. Buddha Purnima is on 15th of, we are celebrating on 15th. The Purnima falls on 16th of August. But we are celebrating on Sunday, the 15th of August. So for that, we chose this topic to talk and remember about Buddha, whom we worship daily in the shrine of the Vedanta Society of Toronto and get inspiration from him. Today, coincidentally, is also the 1st of May, the 125 years anniversary of foundation of the Ramakrishna Mission in 1897 by Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda is very closely connected. He's the founder. He actually founded the Ramakrishna Mission. And also he was so reverential to Buddha and got a lot of inspiration from Buddha. People used to see him and say he is like Buddha when he meditated or he spoke. There were so many similarities with Buddha spirit with Vivekananda. Many said Swami Vivekananda has imbibed the Bodhisattva spirit. Bodhisattva is the sacrificing aspect of Buddha for the happiness of many, for the good of many. Bahujana Hitaya, Bahujana Sukhaya. That also we get from Buddha. His life was dedicated for the good of many, for the happiness of many. That was the purpose of his life. And today also the concluding session happened in Belur Math, our headquarters of the 125th years anniversary celebration, year-long celebration that started last year on 1st May. And this year it concluded the celebration at the 125th anniversary of the foundation of the Ramakrishna Mission. As Swami Vivekananda said, the purpose of the motto of Ramakrishna Mission is Atmano Mokshartham Jagat Hitaya Cha. Again, the Buddha philosophy for the good of the world. That was half of the motto of the Ramakrishna Mission. And half is Atmano Mokshartham, for self-emancipation, for liberation, for moksha. And that moksha has to be combined with good of others. That's how the Buddha comes very much close to the ideal of Ramakrishna order. And how Swami Vivekananda had the vision of Buddha when he was meditating in his childhood, that also we know. And Swami Vivekananda, there are many sayings about the Buddha as we read. Buddha was born more than 2,500 years ago, very ancient time. Among all great religious giants that we worship or get inspiration from, like Jesus, Chaitanya, Kabir Das. Buddha was the oldest of them. Of course, Rama and Krishna are very old human beings, the avatars that we worship, but their date is not fixed. We don't know when they were born. Definitely much before Buddha. But Buddha is recorded, and there is variation dispute. But what is accepted is he was born on 563 BC, and he attained Mahaparinirvana, as they say. We don't say the death. We don't say death of Buddha. Buddha never dies. Jesus never dies. Ramakrishna never dies. Ramakrishna, we say it is Mahasamadhi. On Buddha, we say Mahaparinirvana. Jesus, we say crucifixion. But we don't say Jesus died on a cross. It was just crucifixion. His mortal life was concluded there. But Buddha and Christ and Jesus and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all these great avatars, prophets, they live on, they don't die, through their message and also through their great inspiring life, which transforms the life of many people throughout the ages. For 2,500 years and more, Buddhism is as effective as it was during his time. In many parts of the world, it was in India during that time, and now in India, its influence as Buddhism is not there, but Buddha's influence and the personality of Buddha's influence has been taken up by Hinduism itself. Hindus regard Buddha as the incarnation of God, and they inculcate his life and his teachings. Which one? Not that there is no God, or we can't say about the Atma or the self, but his compassion, his love, his sacrifice, his sadhana. That is very much come into the Hinduism. Even the monastic orders of Hinduism that Swami Vivekananda revived in the monasticism of Hinduism, the aspect of service, of worship of human beings, literally as seeing them as God, as instructed by Sri Ramakrishna. And it was started much before by Buddha, whose concern was human being, because he didn't talk about God. In the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna also we hear about something about Buddhism, that he said Buddha didn't deny that there is God. He just didn't speak that there is God. He didn't affirm, but he never denied. He didn't want to talk about God. Why? Because the talk about God was more, just debate and talking, and really people were not seeking God, were not trying to have God in their life, were not trying to change their life. Very worldly minded they have become. Priestcraft was rampant, and people were all on ceremonial sacrifice and asking things of the world from worship from God. But what about their own transformation of their life to have the mukti, to have the realization? That was little degraded during the time of Buddha. Swami Vivekananda says there was a need of person like Buddha to fulfill the dharma of the India, Vedic dharma of India. So Buddhism becomes like the fulfillment of whatever was needed at that time. Swami Vivekananda, as we heard in the reading, that he revered Buddha, but he didn't approve the Buddhism as explained by people after Buddha. The philosophy of nihilism, or philosophy of there is nothing that is permanent, like that everything is fleeting and changing. Buddha did say that things are fleeting and changing, but that was about the world, about the nature that is ever changing. But is there something that is permanent, as the Upanishads say? Yes, nityo anityanam. There is nitya among all this anitya, all this changing. There is a permanent, unchanging, eternal substance in there. Buddha did believe. He must have believed, because he talks of nirvana. He talks of attainment of a stage when there is the fulfillment of your life, from which there is no change. It is a life transforming experience. And he talks about nirvana, which Advaita says about the Brahmajnana, about the impersonal reality, the truth, when you experience the truth. Buddha doesn't say in that way because it was too much of God and the rituals were too much there being, people were led in that way, as if he started he gave a new form of religion. They say Buddha was a great psychologist. He treated human beings, what they should work, what they should think, what they should speak, that will give them the fulfillment and peace in life. Buddha's life itself was full of compassion. That's why compassionate Buddha, that is very apt adjective for Buddha, compassionate. Like forgiving Jesus, like renouncing Sri Ramakrishna, some like Maryada Purushottam Sri Rama, like Anasakta Sri Krishna, Yogeshwara Sri Krishna. Like these are the epithets that go very perfectly match with the life of this great avatara that we say. So Buddha is compassionate Buddha that we call. His life was full of compassion from very birth. He was born in present-day Nepal in Lumbini forest. It was the forest of the trees called sal tree. That is the subtropical vegetation, the trees that grow there at that time. And he was born in the forest. Strangely, these all great people were born in some very unusual places. Except for Rama, who was born in palace. Krishna was born in jail, in a prison. Buddha was born, Jesus was born in a manger. Sri Ramakrishna was born in a small oven, husking machine was there, place. All were born in a place like that, and Buddha was born in a forest. So that's how their great birth is that way. Buddha grew up, and somehow his father Siddhartha knew that Buddha is going to be either two ways: either he's going to be a great monk and start a new religion, or he's going to be a great king, emperor, Chakravarti Raja, as they say. So naturally, Suddhodana, Suddhodana, sorry, not Siddhartha. Suddhodana wanted him to be king. Naturally, he was a king, and he wanted him to be a great king. And he deprived Buddha to go and mix with any other people so that no pitiable sin comes to him. He was so compassionate by nature. We know the story of even before he became Buddha. His cousin was there, Devadatta. And he was like a king, prince, shooting this, that. Once he shot a flying bird. Bird came down, fell down, and then Buddha saw it first, and he started nursing that injured bird. Took out the arrow and nursed and tried to do that. Devadatta comes and says, I shot it, I claim this bird. He said, no, it is the right of person who nourishes, who gives life. He should have the right of the thing, not the one who kills. So they went to the king, and king gave in favor of Buddha the decision. So like that, Buddha was very compassionate in his nature from very childhood. As he was made to live in the palace premises without going to anywhere and mixing anything, he grew up like that without knowing that there is suffering in the world. But very soft-hearted, very kind-hearted person as he was. So one day he goes to his city of Kapilavastu, his kingdom, and he finds the scenes of this one after another. He finds the scenes of old age, disease, and death. And he asks Chandaka, his charioteer, what is this? This person is walking so difficultly. He seems to be some unusual person. Oh, he has some suffering. He's suffering from disease. Oh, there is disease. People suffer. Yes. Does everyone suffer? Yes. Whoever grows old, would I also suffer? Yes. You are also a human being. You are all to suffer. If every probability will suffer. So everybody suffers with old age, with disease. Another thing, walking with the staff. And who is this? Is that walking normally as we do? He's an old person. Old age, so much of difficulty in walking, so weak, frail he has become. Does it happen to everyone? This is so wise was the person. Of course, the life itself teaches the wisdom. And yes, it happens to everyone. And then dead body. Oh, people die? That was also not known. It was so much hidden to the youthful Buddha, Siddhartha. He never saw dead body or never heard the news that someone dies. So that's how the life reality had been kept secret from him, thinking that he may become a monk. But one who is destined to become a monk, how can Suddhodana deprive him or keep away? So he saw one sannyasi at this. He saw the fourth scene also is there. He saw a very happy person walking and wearing a strange dress. He asked Chandaka again, who is this? He seems to be free from all sorrow and suffering. He says, he's a sannyasi, he's a monk, he has given up everything in search of truth and peace. And seems he has found, oh, there is a way out of suffering. That time itself he thought, there is a way out of suffering. There is the way to search the truth or the reality. Whatever we are there is part of all suffering. So Buddha, that idea of how to find way out of suffering, compassion. And Buddha, more than for himself, for the whole mankind, to relieve mankind from suffering, he gave up his home and hearth and his young wife and just born child, and gave up his kingdom and princely comforts and became a monk and went to the forest near Rajagriha. That was the place where when some ashramas were there were great teachers of Vedanta were there. One great teacher at that time was Alara Kalam. That was the name of great Upanishadic teacher during Buddha's time. Alara Kalama. So he went there and learned the Shastras, what the scriptures say about the truth, reality, can it be found? The purpose of life is to find the truth. That he learned with him for many years. And after that, he went to another teacher called Uddaka, a son of a great teacher of that time called Sri Rama. But he learned from him also. And then after learning all the scriptures, now he was ready to do practice, sadhana. And very great austerity he wanted to do to find the truth. I want to realize what I have studied in the scriptures. Just reading and becoming intellectually convinced is not enough. I want to experience the truth that are spoken in the scriptures and taught by my teachers. So he went to the forest called Uruvela. That forest is now called Buddha Gaya. The forest of Uruvela, and started meditating. But Buddha was already like leader, was their leadership. So seeing him to be performing all austerities with all sincerity, some students gathered him. Some of his friends were doing, like 5 of them, all came and accepted him as the leader, and they said, how should we practice? Now you guide us. Now, while he was practicing, he became very thin, bone and skin. As the scene was being sung here, it was that Buddha in deep austerity, very thin but bright face, and he is doing tapasya with half-closed eyes, meditating, that scene. Buddha somehow thought that time that too much of austerity, this body will not survive. Truth doesn't seem to be coming. So it's not there. Before I realize the truth, I attain the knowledge and find a way to get rid of the suffering. If I die, what is the use of this life? I have to find the way out of suffering for the humanity. All this inspired by the compassionate heart of the Buddha. And then, when he realized that time itself, the village girl Sujata gave her some milk, the rice cooked in milk and sweetened. It's called payasam. And he ate that payasam. He was not eating many things, he was keeping fast and that. When his own disciples, the 5 of us, his companions, he saw Buddha is now eating something. So he said he has given up austerity and spiritual practice. He has given himself to luxury. That they thought was the luxury. How much hard tapasya that he was doing. Buddha and these whole 5 people were doing, you can imagine. Even eating a bowl of payasam was like a luxury for them. And so much they were unhappy, they just left the Buddha alone in the forest and they moved somewhere else outside. They deserted Buddha. Now Buddha after that got some energy and sat in meditation. And he said, I have to find that determination, that I have to find the truth, as we find in the life of Sri Ramakrishna. I have to find the reality, I have to find God, otherwise life has no meaning. He also said, I have to find the reality, the truth. Nirvana, Bodhi is called, the wisdom of reality that I have to find. If not that, in search of that, if my body dies, let it go. Aprapya bodhim bahukalpa durlabham. I know it's very difficult to realize the truth. And Buddha, maybe during his meditation time, he remembered in his previous lives that how he had been doing good to the people, serving, sacrificing his life. Life after life, he had been sacrificing his own life. There are the 500 Jataka tales, 500 previous lives he remembered, and how he sacrificed his life for the sake of others. And yet he did not have the realization of truth. Nirvana was not attained. This life I will attain Nirvana. He sat down and said, I am not going to rise from here. May this body die, may something happen. I will realize the truth. And that night itself, they say, he was knocking at the door of the truth. And then, as they say, Mara came. Mara is like some people say, Indra sent someone to disturb the meditation of the people. Mythology says that. But the psychology says some subconscious ideas and thoughts that were unclear, they come and try to disturb and see whether the resolve is right or not. And Buddha did not give up to any of the fear or greed or enjoyment that all came before his mind. That in Buddhist philosophy is called Mara came. Mara is that wants to disturb you, that obstacle in the path of realization. That's called Mara. So that Buddha denied the Mara. His Mara went away. And he became quiet and went deep into meditation. That night itself, he realized the truth. Now, what is the truth? It is going beyond this temporal world, going to that state where the reality shines by itself and one person becomes one with reality. In Buddhism, it is called state of nirvana. When all our desires and this worldly relativity is all lost and even in that reality, you merge in that. The state of nirvana. Buddha himself calls it Bodhi. And that's why, because he had attained Bodhi or wisdom of reality, that's why he called Buddha himself Buddha. He said, I am just Buddha. Later on, people asked him, are you a saint or a god? Who are you? He said, I am Buddha. I am enlightened. I have found the truth. And not that only I have found, everyone can find the truth. I am just like you, a simple human being. With determination and practice, I have found the truth. Truth can be found. And that night, he attained the nirvana. He became Buddha. Siddhartha sat for meditation. Buddha came out of meditation. Ratnakara went into meditation. Valmiki came out of meditation. Total transformation by the realization of truth. That was the Buddha Purnima day. And that Purnima, full moon night, he was born on that Tithi, full moon night of that very month, Vaishakha Purnima. So that's why it's called Vaishakha, deformed this word from Vaishakha, in Sanskrit Vaishakha, it became Vaishakha. In Buddhist lore in Sri Lanka or elsewhere, it's called Vaishakha. So that means Vaishakha Purnima. That very day he attained this thing. After he came back to the normal consciousness of this world, he was so full of bliss, so much overwhelming, transforming experience that he couldn't speak for hours. He was quiet. That's how that experience was. And they say he didn't speak for 7 days and he was just walking. And after he attained, came back to very normal plane, then again Mara comes and he said, you have attained the knowledge. Now keep it with you. Buddha said, I want to share it. No, no, nobody will understand the truth that you have experienced. It is so deep, people will not be able to reach there. And they will misunderstand, wrongly understand, not understand. Why do you go to that? Be in the bliss you have already attained. But Buddha was Buddha. He was not other ordinary person. He wanted to share his experience. He wanted to give the joy of having nirvana to every human being. That was his goal. Then whom to speak this thing? They say, wanted to share that with his teachers. He wanted to share his own experience, which he learned from teacher. He had that Guru Bhakti, that Buddhaka and Alara Kalama. He went there and spoke. And then he went in search of these 5 persons who had deserted him. They were good, they were practicing, they were also seeking truth. Then he found that they have gone near Varanasi, about 200 miles away. And that Varanasi, where we now call Saranatha, its name was Ishipattana, deer park there, Ishipattana. He found 5 were there sitting and practicing meditation. They hadn't given up. They saw Buddha from a distance and said, this guy has come who has changed his life. He is given to luxury, so we will not talk to him. But as Buddha approached to them, they found it's not the same person. There's glow in his face. The glow of wisdom has already there. So they could not resist. Buddha approached them, and Buddha said, I found the truth. And they sat around him and started listening to him. He gave the first sermon to them. And what was the sermon? I found the truth. What is the truth? In this worldly existence, there is suffering. No one can deny. There is existential suffering. Very birth is suffering, very life is suffering, very death is suffering. We cannot get rid of suffering. There is suffering, is the truth, experience of suffering. And there is also another truth. There is cause of this suffering. Suffering doesn't happen just because we exist. There is a cause of this suffering other than existential suffering. For this existential suffering, there is a cause. That cause created by us. That is the second thing of the truth. There is the third truth. What is the third truth? That this suffering can be removed. Everyone can be free from suffering. Can be free from old age, disease, death. No, not that. But suffering born of that can be got rid of. Body will have those changes. But the suffering that it gives to human being because of the changes in the body, one can get rid of that suffering. One is pain, another is suffering. We suffer more out of pain, out of suffering, mental suffering, than the real physical pain. So he said, there is a way out of suffering. And he said, there is a fourth and final truth, and that is the way out of suffering. You have to work something, you have to put effort, you have to deliberately do sadhana. And what is the sadhana? Eightfold path. Arya Astakam. That is an eightfold path you have to perform. Then you can get rid of all the suffering that is, people think you cannot get rid of. What are the eightfold path? This 4 truth is called 4 noble truths. Chatur Arya Satya. Arya means a civilized person, those who can practice, those who want to get rid of, those who want to really transform themselves. That's called Arya. That was very word that we read even in the Gita. Arya, what he says, Sri Krishna uses to Arjuna, Arya. That Arya was the noble person. That 4 noble truths. That suffering is there. There is a cause of suffering, there is a way out of suffering, and the way out of suffering is the practice of these eightfold paths. What are the eightfold paths? This eightfold path, Buddha said to those, is right outlook, right will, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right absorption. So, first 2 are called pragya or insight, like outlook and will, how the life is to be seen. There has to be the way to see, there is the goal, a broader goal, higher goal of life. So that is called insight. You know that life has purpose. We have purpose in life to attain higher wisdom. And for that, will has to be there. I will attain that sort of will. I will make my shortcomings go away. That is the inside. Then there's the moral virtue or Shila, it's called in Buddhist language, Shila. What are the Shila? Practice. What are the practice? Right speech, right action, and right livelihood. You should talk nicely with the people, and there should be your actions should be the right kind, not hurting others, and your livelihood should be the right type of livelihood where you don't cheat others. You have do effort and do in your livelihood itself. There should be good of others be done in a very honest way. You live, so that is right livelihood. The last three are called meditation or samadhi. It's right effort. Now, after doing that, you put effort to attain the knowledge, and there is right mindfulness or right concentration. You have to perform your concentration in the right way to a particular object and daily practice. That is right concentration. And finally, there's samyak samadhi. There's the right absorption or right realization of the truth, which is called nirvana, bodhi prapya. That what it is called. So Buddha didn't talk about much about God or Atma. In fact, later on they say, Buddhists now say, they don't say about God as if there is no God. And they don't say about Atta. They say, right, rather it is Anatta, no Atma. That is the thing. But what Buddha meant by the word Anatta is, Atta means Jivatta or the ego. So he says, ego is a false notion. That I sense is a false notion. So that is not real. But what is real? That you have to find it. It cannot be expressed. As Upanishad said, he also studied Upanishad. Upanishad said that can be not be seen. Naiva vacha na manasa praptum sakyo na chakshusa. The reality cannot be explained. It cannot be attained through mind or intellect, and it cannot be seen through your eyes. It has to be experienced. So he didn't talk much about the reality. It cannot be talked about, but it can be practiced and found. He led people to practice, do that, and you will find the truth. For that, live a noble life. And his teaching was like lead a life of high thinking. And Buddha, we have to imbibe the Buddha spirit of love, compassion, and tolerance. And there is a like high thinking and deep feeling and loving service. That is the way of Buddha's life, what Buddha taught, how should we live. So in Buddha's life, we find his life was so, after realizing that, having so great, adored by so many people thronged to him to listen to him. And for all problems of life, they went to him. All the sufferings, the new Buddha removes all that. Peaceful, serene, never agitated, always wise, giving wonderful wisdom, that was Buddha. But his life was so humble. And he was there for the good of all. He traveled that part of India where he was born, and where he did in northern India, that part, Bihar and UP, North UP and all that part. He traveled all through. Only 4 months of the year, as other monks used to do, Chaturmasya, he used to stay in some place. And one of the place was Shravasti. He used to stay there, and slowly disciples started gathering, and their followers, and the majority of many of the people, mostly first the traders community, and people were they all came inspired by his wisdom and speech and his guidance. All they found it works. It really works. And but there were other Brahmins who, when he said he didn't approve of the Vedas, he didn't talk of the Vedas, and he didn't say anything about the Vedas. He just made the new way of practice this and attain this. You don't have to believe in anything. No books you have to believe, no deity you have to believe, no ritual that Vedic rituals have said you have to perform the yajna and homa and sacrifice. Those you don't have to do anything to attain the truth. He said that, and people started gathering. So at that time, Buddha this stood against the animal sacrifice. That this is not the real way to please God. God is not pleased by what you sacrifice. God is pleased by how you live the life, how you help and love others. God is pleased by that. What is your heart, that God understands, not what you sacrifice poor animal. So one king was sending some animal to sacrifice. Buddha said, "Why are you taking this to sacrifice? For what? To please God." So God will be pleased by sacrificing a lamb? Yes. So God will be more pleased by sacrificing a bigger and important thing. So you release the lamb and take me and sacrifice. God will be more pleased if the sacrifice will please God. So he offered himself for the sacrifice and to set the lamb free to his own life. And then they realized, no, it's wrong. That's how his compassion that his heart was. He just meant it like that. So Buddha led a life of serenity and equanimity, and he was always equal. And we know how his compassion was there for all. One day, that lady comes with a widow with a dead son, a small son, and he says, "You are Buddha. You have so many powers. Please revive my son to life. I have no one else." Buddha didn't say anything. He was such a great psychologist. They say if Buddha didn't teach about reincarnation, Buddhism believes in reincarnation and karma. They, though they don't believe in the Atma or Jivatma, somehow they believe in the present moment. The past moment is already unreal. The future is not come unreal. Only reality is the present moment. That's why they say. And Buddha said that he didn't teach anyway. He was a great psychologist. He said if Buddha didn't believe in that and preached only the work and the psychology, he would become great positive psychologist, ancient positive psychologist of our ancient times. Just he said about the karma, reincarnation, and the death, and then it became a religion, though he didn't believe, he didn't talk about God. Only religion that doesn't talk about God or Ishvara or higher power or something, and it is a religion. It is a faith. So that is Buddhism. And he said to that lady, he didn't say about the temporariness, evanescence of this world, that everything here is subject to change and decay and die. He didn't say anything. He just said, "Can you bring some mustard seeds from any house that nobody has seen death?" So mustard seed was common seed that in that place it grows mustard seed as the oil seed in that area. I said, "Surely I'll bring." So she goes to village in search of that. And he said, "Can you give me mustard seed?" "Yes, yes, sure." So, and they said, "Has anyone died in your household?" "Yes, my grandfather died." Some say, "My father died." All in every house, someone had died. And then it comes to his thinking, to his her wisdom, that yes, death is inevitable. People die. Someone's child had died, so there was some child death was there at the time. So it it flashed to that lady, Kisha Gautami was his name, as we get from the scriptures, Buddhist scriptures. He came to the senses that death is inevitable. No one can stop death. So my son has died. So this wisdom is the thing that take away all our suffering. You see, she was at peace. She came to Buddha, bowed down to him, and said, "I don't now request you to revive my son. Now I know that death is a part of this worldly existence. So nothing." Like that was Buddha's very teaching of out of compassion. We know the story of Angulimala, how Angulimala was a brutal person, and nobody could control him, no king could control him, and he was committing all sorts of brutality in the villages and towns of that kingdom. Buddha's heart melted out of compassion. Compassion for whom? More for Angulimala than for villagers. Villagers were suffering, no doubt. But Angulimala, human being, had become so brutal, worse than an animal. He went to that Angulimala because of Buddha's compassion and love. And when there is so much of love in a person, so much of fearlessness in a person. So another person also becomes insignificant. His brutality gives way to the love and compassion of Buddha. Angulimala said, "Stop, who is coming to me?" First time you are seeing that someone is walking towards him, all fled away from him. He was so cruel. But here is a person that was coming to him alone without any weapon. And he had a weapon. He killed so many people. He said, "Stop." Buddha said, "I have already stopped. Now it is your time to stop. You stop from doing evil things. Now it is your time to stop." Then he raised his sword. Buddha approached near him. Now love of Buddha just embraced, and it caught in the aura of the love and compassion of Buddha, and he fell down at Buddha's feet, Angulimal, and said, "I have done so much crime that please protect me, please forgive me, please redeem me." And Buddha in that person, Angulimala, that cruelest person, can become so changed, transformed. Sajjana sangati reka, kshanamapi sajjana sangati reka, bhavati bhavanava tarani nauka. When there is sajjana, good person, kind-hearted, compassionate person, and one is so compassionate like the compassionate Buddha, transformation is inevitable. And that person falls and life changes. Villagers or they take a sigh of relief, and that person, Buddha said, now you have to go and beg food from the houses where you have tortured and killed. He goes there, and people throw a stone on him. He doesn't retort. That cruel person, how he totally transformed out of this transformation came out of love and compassion of Buddha. So Buddha treated every person, every devotee so nicely. He had no caste distinction that was so rampant in that time. He didn't believe in caste distinction, and he accepted everyone as a human being, as a person who can realize the truth. And when he was 80 years of age, so one day he was quite old, but still preaching, still moving around, still giving his sermons, still making people joyful with his teachings and his presence. One day, one person comes, a very low caste. His name was Chanda Kamara Putra. Kamara Putra means the son of ironsmith, considered to be very low caste in Hindu, this caste hierarchy. And his name was Chanda. And he said, "Will you kindly dine in my house?" So Buddha, so much revered, and one very person who had no social status in society, he invites him. Buddha says, "Of course." Then what should I prepare? Whatever you eat. And he goes and he eats the food that he gave. And somehow something happened that could not suit to the Buddha, and Buddha fell ill and he was dying. Some food poisoning or something, some time has to come to go. Then he said and people will be angry with the person who last fed. And he fed with so much love. And Buddha had so much love and compassion for everyone. He knew that Chanda had no fault in feeding him. He fed with all love and kindness and respect and reverence. But still people will misunderstand. There were so many big followers, so many monastic followers of Buddha. He knew that they will all be against this Chanda. That's why he said, two persons have done great compassion on me. They have changed my life. They have given greatest thing to me. One was that Sujata who gave me the bowl of that paisam, who saved my life, and I could attain nirvana. I could attain bodhi. Now this Chanda gave me something by that I'm getting released from the bondage of this body and attaining nirvana finally and fully. So it is as great as attaining that bodhi under the bodhi tree. This Chanda also doing near the Kushinagar, it was the Chanda in UP, and he did, and then nobody was angry with him because he was not at fault. And then he had Mahaparinirvana. Again, it was coincidentally, it was the Vaishakha Purnima day, the day of the Purnima. That's why the Buddhists call it thrice blessed day. Swami Vivekananda, as I said, was very fond of Buddha. There is to be a Buddha statue in his room, and one Buddha statue is in the bedroom of Sri Ramakrishna also in the Velurumat temple. So Buddha is very much respected in Ramakrishna order, and Swami Vivekananda brought the greatness of Buddha, the great son of India, who has brought the Indian culture, Indian civilization, had put forth the greatest, one of the greatest son, that is Buddha. His work, his life, his art, and his teachings all are so ennobling. Swami Vivekananda has said so many things about the Buddha. A few was read in the morning in the reading. I will at the end will read some of the Buddha's message to the world by Swami Vivekananda. What Swami Vivekananda had said to about Buddha. At the time Buddha was born, India was in need of a great spiritual leader, a prophet. So Buddha was born at the need of Indian civilization at that time. A person of that stature, of that mentality, that perfection was needed to be born, and Buddha came forth. That's why this is Sanatana Dharma is eternal. Whenever there is crisis in the dharma, Sanatana Dharma, someone great power comes through from inside it. Buddha came, and Shankara came, and Ramakrishna came, Vivekananda came. So many come from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came. All came in time to fulfill the need of that hour. Because in time the dharma literally deviates and declines. And Sri Krishna came, he says, time to time I have to come to re-establish the dharma, because there is rise of adharma that will happen during Buddha's time. That's what Swami Vivekananda says. All my life, says Swami Vivekananda, I have been very fond of Buddha. I have more veneration for that character than any other. That boldness, that fearlessness, and that tremendous love. He was born for the good of men. Others may seek God. Others may seek truth for themselves. He did not even care to know truth for himself. He sought truth because people were in misery. How to help them? That was his only concern. Throughout his life, he never had a thought for himself. Perfect unselfishness. Swamiji loved this word, unselfishness. And the example of perfect unselfishness, first example you put, Buddha. Didn't want anything except good of others. Perfect unselfishness. Buddha died at a ripe old age. I remember a friend of mine, a great American scientist, who was fond of reading his life. He did not like the death of Buddha because he was not crucified. What a false idea. For a man to be great, he must be murdered. Such ideas never prevailed in India. This great Buddha traveled all over India, denouncing her gods and even the God of the universe. And yet, he lived to a good old age. For 80 years he lived and had converted half the country of India. He had converted that, and later on still more. And then with the later Buddhism, as Swamiji said, there was a deviation in the real Sanatana Dharma. They started saying about the Anishwaravada, Anatmavada, there's no reality, everything is changing. Like that thought came, and every Shunya became more prominent, there is nothing. And then the Purnam. So there was so much changes were there. So that's why this Buddhism was replaced by Sanatana Dharma, and a teacher like Shankaracharya came. He took many things from Buddhistic ideas that were prevailing that time, and of the practice of the Advaita, of the reality that is beyond the senses, and attaining the reality is the goal of life. And that reality, he said, not Shunya, but he said Purnam. That Purnam is not conceivable by our mind, but is the fulfillment of everything that our life stands for. That is the Purnam. Why Buddha called Shunyam? Terminology is different, and he didn't talk anything about the Purnam. So to read that with some positive ideas, not with the negative ideas. I have to neti, what is idea? Not this, not this, not this. But then what? What is not that also not this? That is Shunyavada. Now, Not this of the world, but this, Purnam, Brahman, Satchit, Ananda, that is there. Reality is there. Positivity is there. To reach that, give up the evanescent, transient world and you reach that reality. Buddha never bowed down to anything, neither Veda, nor caste, nor priest, nor custom. He fearlessly reasoned so far as reason could take him. Such a fearless search for truth and such love for every living thing the world has never seen. Buddha was a great Vedantist. For Buddhism was really only an offshoot of Vedanta. Buddha was a great Vedantist. And Shankara is often called a hidden Buddhist. Prachanna Buddha, they used to call Shankara. Other Brahmins, other philosophers of that time. Buddha made the analysis. Shankara made the synthesis out of it. Buddha never bowed down to anything, neither Veda, nor caste, nor priest, nor custom. He fearlessly reasoned so far as the reason could take him. Buddha was one of the sannyasins of the Vedanta. He started a new sect just as others are started even today. The ideas which are now called Buddhism were not his. They were much more ancient. He was a great man who gave the ideas power. Buddha was the great preacher of equality. Every man and woman has the same right to attain spiritually. That was his teaching. I would like to see moral men like Gautama Buddha, who did not believe in a personal God or a personal soul, never asked about them, but was a perfect agnostic and yet was ready to lay down his life for anyone and worked all his life for the good of all and thought only for the good of all. Well has it been said by his biographer in describing his birth that he was born for the good of many, as a blessing to many. He did not go to the forest to meditate for his own salvation. He felt that the world was burning and that he must find a way out. Why is there so much misery in the world? Was the one question that dominated his whole life. In Buddha, we get the great universal heart and infinite patience, making religion practical and bringing it to everyone's door. In Shankaracharya, we saw tremendous intellectual power, throwing the scorching light of reason upon everything. We want today that bright sun of intellectuality joined with the heart of Buddha, the wonderful infinite heart of love and mercy. This union will give us the highest philosophy, science, and religion will meet and shake hands. Poetry and philosophy will become friends. What? Those giants of old, the ancient rishis, who never walked but strode, of whom, if we were to think but for a moment, you would shrivel up into a moth. They, sir, had time and you have no time. His Swamiji is saying to the people who say we have no time for spiritual practice. It was the great Buddha who never cared for the dualist gods and who has been called an atheist and materialist, who yet was ready to give up his body for a poor goat. That man set in motion the highest moral ideas any nation can have. Wherever there is a moral code, it is a ray of light from that man. Shakyamuni came not to destroy, but he was the fulfillment, the logical conclusion, the logical development of the religion of the Hindus. The Lord Buddha is my Ishta, my God. He preached no theory about Godhead. He was himself God. I fully believe it. That is how Swami Vivekananda's reverence for Gautama Buddha. that he was always fond of this person. He said that he was the only sane person in the world because he didn't believe anything external. He was totally self-dependent. He didn't believe in any book, any God, any outer force, only in himself. Whole his life was that. So he only sane person, the most unselfish person, most loving and compassionate Buddha. That's Swami Vivekananda adored, and that Buddha may inspire us to become like the Buddha, Bodhisattva ideal that Swami Vivekananda himself was also. All his whole his life he found the intellect of Shankara and heart of Buddha coming together in one personality. And he said, he is Sri Ramakrishna, very intelligent and same large-hearted like Buddha combined together. That's how he loved and gave himself at the feet of Sri Ramakrishna. Today is the day when Swami Vivekananda founded the great organization, Ramakrishna Mission, on this on the day today. We say that Ramakrishna Math, the order was founded not by Swami Vivekananda, but by Sri Ramakrishna himself when he gave ochre robes and founded the band of monks in 1886. Since then, the Ramakrishna order was founded. But Ramakrishna order making into an organization that will love and serve and help and worship the people around and find the spiritual as a part of a spiritual practice, the service to fellow human beings as worship of God. With this ideal, when the society will work, all will come together, and with that motive of worship, large-hearted, and that Ramakrishna Mission was founded by Swami Vivekananda, will provide the people whatever they need, education and service and the food during calamities and the treatment in the hospitals, whatever people need, and the knowledge for those who need knowledge, and it being established in itself by your own spiritual practice, highly moral and truthful and loving and compassionate, and spreading themselves to the service of loving service of humanity. This was the foundation of Ramakrishna Mission 125 years ago, and it's spreading, increasing, branches are increasing, its work is increasing, and it will go on. Swami Vivekananda said 1,500 years it will go on developing, increasing, huge time. And as we know that Swami said 1,500 years, what will happen after that? Will it collapse? No, no religious body, no this great power when it collapses. Just others may come, but it will go on working. Ramakrishna, Vivekananda, Sarada will be always there, inspiring for ages, like Jesus is there, inspiring still after 2,000 years. Buddha is there, inspiring after 2,500 years. Similarly, Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Swami Vivekananda will always inspire the humanity, and may Buddha, Jesus, and Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, and Swami Vivekananda bless us, give us courage to transform our life and make it pure and perfect. That's my prayer on remembering the Buddha on when we're talking about compassionate Buddha. Thank you very much. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Jai Mahamai Ki Jai. Jai Swami Ji Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Buddha Ki Jai. Jai Isha Musha Ki Jai. Sarvastaratu Durgani Sarvo Bhadrani Pashyatu Sarvasad Buddhimapnotu Sarvatra Nandatu. Hari Om Tat Sat. May all be freed from dangers. May all realize what is good. May all be actuated by noble thoughts. May all rejoice everywhere. Oh, peace, peace, peace be unto us all. Now, correction.